That's really what he said?
Like,
that's really the reason he said?
The reason, yes, he didn't want to compete with Rush. I think there were other people who were against it because, it could get out of hand. Obviously, there'd be a 60-second delay, but it wouldn't be, or whatever delay, 10-second, 20-second delay, because you'd be getting pranked. But that's the reason he gave for giving up the idea.
Did Rush respond? And Rush was, there's a lot of conservative talk radio out there. There's a lot of talented people. There's a lot of great conservative podcasts out there. Rush, his response was, I don't think basically anybody can take over for me when I'm done. Donald Trump is the only one who can take over for me.
Mark Levin is great.
Come on, there's plenty of people.
There's people who can do it and will do it, but
Ben Shapiro could do it.
Don't you? Don't you think Trump would last like a week? It's always one of those guys that
Trump would be boring. He would just talk about himself. He's like obsessed with himself.
He would only want calls who give him credit.
Yes.
That's every time I see him, and I've watched all these briefings every day, these endless briefings. And if I were a liberal, I would hate him, obviously. But if I were just one of these people, these anti-Trumpers, these Bill Kristols, the thing that I would hate the most, because it annoys me, and I like him, and I support him, is that everything is about who gets the credit. I mean, not just him. He wants credit for things he does, but he wants Pence to get credit. He wants the Army Corps of Engineers who gets the credit. He wants everything. There's just a ledger in his mind of who gets the credit and who gives the credit, and that is like such a priority. It wears you out when you watch him, because everything's about who gets the credit, who gets the blame, who gets more credit than the other guy. It's just this endless theme.
Yeah, I mean, are you new here? He's an egomaniac, obviously. This is the downfall of Trump, is that he's obsessed with Trump and he's obsessed with himself and obsessed with constantly giving himself credit. But we put up with it, Jerry, because this is the alternative to Hillary Clinton. What would Hillary Clinton be doing right now with this pandemic?
Oh, I know. It would be frightening. It'd be frightening. And again, I say this every day, but this was the Democrats thought this was their only hope. A natural disaster or some war, something existential that could bring Trump down and give them a chance in November. And when this happened, I'm not saying they wanted people to die, but they definitely wanted the economy to crash, and they wanted the Trump to look bad. They wanted something to stop him, to stop this runaway train that was Trump and the economy, and things were just too good. They got it. They got it times 1,000. They got it in a form we've never seen before. It hasn't worked out the way they were hoping. Trump's approval ratings going up. Biden looks pathetic. I don't know if you saw the latest Biden gaffe, but when he was reading a script like on a teleprompter in his basement, they had something in quotes. They wrote the word quote, and he read it.
Biden did?
He did the Anchorman. Nice.
Yes, he did the Anchorman or the Dale Arnold. Was Dale? I don't think read verbatim. We used to give. We've all done it where you're reading a script and you read the word that's supposed to be that you're not supposed to read. He did it yesterday. It didn't get a lot of coverage, but because it's just the latest gaffe. But this is him scripted. This is him in his basement, surrounded by handlers. Eventually, I don't know if it's going to be July, August, when there's a convention, he's going to be set free. You're free, with no script. Can you imagine that day, Turtle Boy? He's going to be older. He's going to be 78. He's going to have, the dementia's going to be worse. It's going to be just incredible.
But the question will be, who's going to be by his side? We may have found out something yesterday.
Please. Right? Please, God. Can we all hold hands, virtually? Not really.
Hold on. Here we go.
Let's hold hands and pray.
Would you say yes?
Yes.
What was the question?
I'm so happy you just gave me a concise answer to that.
What was the question?
That's Rachel Maddow with Liz Warren interviewing, and she says, would you accept if he offered you the vice presidency? I'll give Liz Warren credit. She doesn't tell the truth often, but at least she didn't hedge, and we know she would take it.
She's not going to pick
whoever
her
the
anyway.
VP
She's
is
not
going to be
even
president.
She's not on the list anyway. She's not even close to being on the
Well,
list.
what do you mean? She endorsed him yesterday. That was very
They're
courageous.
all
to give
going
it
to
to
endorse.
her.
I mean, the list is down. It's all women, and it's really like 4 or 5 women that can win it. I mean, Kamala Harris is leading right now, and Governor Karen in Michigan is a high riser, which would make the most sense
No,
because
she's falling. I disagree. She was on the short list. This is not helping her. She looks bad. But anyway, go ahead.
There's the woman with
Klobuchar.
the hyphenated woman from Nevada, Catherine Maisto, or whatever her name is, the senior senator over there. She's high on the list because that's another state that they need to win is Nevada. And obviously
Klobuchar.
Stacey Abrams, who's never won anything in her whole life, she's high on the list too. But it'll be one of those. It's not gonna be Elizabeth Warren.
But if they do a political calculation and a poll and a focus group, and it says he needs a radical, he needs someone Bernie-like, that someone that hates America, that wants to destroy it, that would be Liz. She is the most radical one on that list you just read. And
well, that only happened last night because Elizabeth Warren was feeling like she wasn't on the list, so she reached out to Rachel Maddow and said, "Can you ask me this question? Can we make headlines?"
Right.
So that she gets added to the list or she gets bumped up the list. That's the only reason that happened.
That's a good point. This is calculated like everything she does. And just think of all the Bernie bros who might not vote. If they're not motivated, they might not get off the couch, get out of bed and vote because they don't like Biden. They certainly aren't inspired by Biden. Maybe they'll vote for Liz. And Liz, again, is a fighter. Biden is an incompetent, inept old man. He's not going to be able to handle the fight, whether it's in a debate or it's in I was going to say in an interview, but there's not going to be any hostile
would
interviews.
get smoked against Mike Pence in a debate. That's Mike Pence's big thing. Is he's a good debater. He's very.
She is too. She's vicious. You've seen her. She's vicious. I disagree. She would be good. I mean, it'd be a good debate. It'd be a real contrast there. But she would be much better fighter than say, whoever. Kamala Harris.
Yeah, Kamala Harris would be. I mean, well, they'd both be awful. They'd both be absolutely awful. It makes no logistical sense.
I mean, I don't want Liz to go away now. She's been so entertaining and just so duplicitous. It's been fun. I think Liz and Biden together in the summer, together at the convention in August, that would be priceless. I'm rooting for her again. I was rooting for her to get the nomination just so I could continue to mock her. I'm rooting for her to get the
I can't even imagine what a world is going to be like 3 months from now, Jerry, where we just get to go to conventions. I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like. It's bizarre.
I said that. I was talking to someone about that. I'm no futurist, but I don't know how those people do it. They project, they predict. What is the world in 3 months? It's going to be July 16th in 3 months, right?
Yes. No, that'll be 3 months. Right. No, okay, my math.
3 months.
Carry the one.
90
right.
days.
Okay. Yeah.
90 friggin' days.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay.
What is going to be? Are there going to be any restaurants? Are there going to be would you be able to sit down in a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks? God knows, could you take a seat? Could you go to an ice cream store and get an ice cream cone in the middle of July? Is that going to be? I mean, will you be able to go to a gym, go to a yoga class in 90 days?
Yeah, I mean, well, Planet Fitness is still taking my money. I'll tell you that much. They have no problem taking the money out of my account. But I think the gyms will be one of the last places, unfortunately, to open up because those are doesn't that seem like the biggest? And casinos. Casinos have to be the last one because old people love casinos and they love touching the same. They go to there just to play the slots all day. That'll be the last thing to open up.
Casinos were riding high. I mean, everyone was legal in sports betting and people were going. And now what? Now they're shut down and they can't have, they can't just stay shut down for whatever, a year and a half till there's a vaccine. You're right. Places where old people go will be the last places. You know what? I think I'm wondering about the future of horse racing. Hate to say it to my old pal Mutt, but Jesus, do you think all the horse tracks are going to open up down in Himalaya?
Is that essential? I
don't know. Wrestling, Dave was happy. Wrestling was
wrestling got beat up yesterday. If you need I can. What is it? Dale and Holly used to do the hockey minute. If you want the wrestling minute on this podcast, I can do it for you because yesterday was a bad day.
No.
Bad day. Layoffs. They can't. They halted construction on their new headquarters. I mean, all right, stuff.
I know it is amazing. Some places will come back, and others will never come back. Like your horse tracks and your restaurants that were just on the bubble, hanging in there. Your seasonal places, they're doomed. But who cares? Who cares?
I need to start doing, like, I don't open up my local paper. You know what I mean? Like, here,
that's another one. That's another one. Newspapers. People don't want to touch it.
but not like the Boston Globe. I'm talking about, that's true too. You don't want to touch don't touch the newspaper or go touch their mail, basically. But like local newspapers, are they reporting? Like I asked, are they reporting on the closures of small businesses in their town?
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
What?
Have you opened a newspaper in the last 5 years? You think
No,
they're
I'm talking
reporting?
like in the local town. Do they have
Local
that
town
news
newspapers
up
are
there
all
yet?
owned by Gatehouse.
Town closed.
Dave, there's no such thing as a local town newspaper anymore. They're all owned by Gatehouse Media. Have you noticed that? Providence Journal. Every single one of these newspapers now has the same exact format because they're all owned by Gatehouse. And the first thing Gatehouse does when they come in there is they cut everybody who's local and they just regurgitate AP stories. There's no local news. That's why people come to Terrible.
It's definitely, they are an endangered species. It wasn't there. They weren't in good shape, before this. And now, just like, sports radio or talk radio, I mean, they weren't in good shape before this, and this ain't helping. It's sad. In 90 days, we're going to be sitting here, podcasts are doing okay. We're not nearly getting hurt nearly. Yeah, well, I am. Yeah. We are. I think, Bill Simmons is.
That's right. I forgot about Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons, who was a part-timer at the Herald when I was there, and he said I was nice to him, thankfully. But, was the Boston sports guy, blogging before anyone was blogging, and he was podcasting before anyone was podcasting. And God bless him. Yesterday, the New York Post reported he bought a $16 million home. A $16 million home, which is only part of it, in L.A., in this incredibly affluent neighborhood in LA. Then they go through all his other real estate holdings. The guy has.
Why is he allowed to buy a home right now? Is that
$16 million for an historic estate in the posh neighborhood of Hancock Park, arguably the enclave's most desirable street in, I don't know where Hancock. I don't know where anything is in LA. But then they go through his empire. Besides his $16 million estate, he has a $7.5 million oceanfront cottage in Malibu on Carbon Beach, where he's neighbors with Larry Ellison and Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Wow.
He has another home in Hancock Park worth $3.1 million, a Tudor. There's a condo in Westwood, walking distance to UCLA, worth $1.7 million. This guy has a real estate empire. The Boston sports guy, and I know he's done well. Spotify bought the Ringer, but Jesus, I guess he's.
I get it. I give it to Bill Simmons, man. I mean, he literally started with an email list. He just started writing a stupid little. He had like 100 people that just subscribed to him on email, and he built up his freaking. All he does is just talk about Boston sports, and I mean, I guess he's good. But he was ahead of the game. If Bill Simmons tried to do what he was doing now and tried to start it up, it wouldn't work. He was just ahead of the game.
He was in the blogging and online stuff and podcasting. And I listen to the Ringer stuff sometimes, and I can't believe how well it's done. Some of them are boring. They're movie podcasts, whatever it's called, rewatchable. And I'm going, and Simmons will talk about the NBA like endlessly. Sit there and talk about the Sacramento Kings backcourt. And he'll get 1 million downloads. He was way ahead of the game and ahead of everyone. And, he's not going anywhere. He's still dominating. But
it's funny what works for people and what doesn't. Like, to me, he's such a juggernaut. Obviously, he was a juggernaut with the blogging. He's a juggernaut in podcasting. But then he goes, because he's a juggernaut in those areas, he signs a deal with HBO and has a show that completely flops. That literally nobody watched it. Nobody cared. But here's the guy who's like, he's owning the internet, but then can't bring it to cable television. It's strange to me how that all works.
And he was a great writer, and that's what he started as, great writer. But I'm not sure how much he writes anymore.
People are saying you're jealous, Jerry. I'm
jealous. Of course, I'm jealous.
Yes. The rewatch. They're saying the rewatchables is great.
$7.5 million cottage cottage. I'm not sure it's, the cottage like.
I'd like to have a
that picture.
cottage. I'd like to have a cottage.
Cottage. Yeah, well, if you were in Michigan, you wouldn't be allowed to go there.
Well, why is he even allowed to
You-
buy a home right now, Jerry? I assume he had to meet with a realtor, attorneys, and stuff like that, so they can do that. They right? Realtors can sell
I
$16
think
million
so.
homes.
I guess maybe you can't show homes. Maybe you have to just be online and look at them. But I don't think they've shut down the real estate market.
I can't imagine Bill
Not
Simmons would
helping.
buy a $16 million home without stepping foot in it.
Well, maybe you can. Who knows? LA doesn't. They don't have a big problem. We have more cases,
We do.
positive coronavirus cases in Massachusetts, and more deaths than they do in California.
Yeah, we're like fourth
You
or
know,
fifth in total. Like
We have 6 million
Louisiana.
people. They
Yeah.
have 45 million people, and they're better than we are. And they have lots of cities, and they have lots of Asian people that flew from China to LA. And somehow, maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the distance people keep between each other, but they are not suffering like we are here in the Northeast. It's an amazing anomaly. But anyway, all right, Turtle Boy, go blog. You got lots to get to.
Oh, a lot of
Get to the
ratchet
bottom of that guy in the New Haven restaurant. I want to know how he managed to kill 70 bottles of booze in 4 days.
All
You
right.
mean
I'll get right on
Sap?
Yeah, I think he broke Sapachetti's record. But anyway, thanks, man.
All right. Thanks for having me, fellas.
We will talk to you next week. Thanks to Shea Concrete and Allied Paving. Thanks to our friends at DCU, and thanks to everybody. As I'm serious, we're doing well. Cullen, we're doing well, and we looked at the numbers, and people are hanging with us. Unlike sports radio, unlike talk radio, unlike a lot of newspapers, I think podcasts are going to be okay, including this one. Thank God.
If we don't lose all our listeners to Turtle Boy's live stream on YouTube, that's what's scary.
All 54 people.
I thought he had comments and questions. He'd lose his focus.
I do. I'm reading some of them off. I'm sneaking them in there. Like that comment about the Bill Simmons
waiting
thing.
for you to give us the comments.
The
that
you're
you get.
jealous thing, that was a comment. Somebody said you're jealous of his show because the rewatchables
Yes.
is great. That's an example of that. I integrated in without.
Again, I don't hear the podcast. I've sampled lots of podcasts. I don't hang with them. I don't subscribe necessarily to all the ones I check out, but Simmons has done remarkably well.
You come from a different world, right? Like you want to hear radio that argues with each other, right? That doesn't exist in podcasting. Is basically an extension of NPR. If you listen to the majority
do you listen to Simmons? Or you listen to Ryan Russillo? Break down the Phoenix.
No.
Yeah, but
Phoenix
like
Suns.
NBA dominates social media and YouTube. Like if you go,
That is true.
The NBA has like 20 million views. It's wild. So
Yeah.
He just hired Jamel Hill.
yeah,
To do, I don't forget what the podcast, to do a podcast on watching The Wired again after, 10 years
It's a
or
great show.
something.
It's a great show, though.
Just, I was going to say, how about you do that, Turtle Boys? Do a little homework. Why don't you listen to Jamel Hill's podcast?
I'd rather
on the
kill
Ringer?
myself than listen to
And
Jamel
give
Hill
us-
for 5 minutes. Literally.
I'd rather go lick the.
Yeah. Just give me Corona. Just
Lick the
inject
seats on the
coronavirus
New
into
York
my veins
subway.
right now and end it. Because I'd rather do that than listen to her for 5 minutes.
I'll give you that. That's your choice. You go to New York City and get on the subway and lick the strap handles, or listen to Jamel Hill's podcast. You pick.
Just lick the subways easily. And that's not even a choice. No choice.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody for hanging in there with us. We appreciate it. Thanks to you, Cullinane. This is the Callahan Podcast. We will talk to you again soon.
Peace.
all right, hang on, Turtle Boy, don't leave me. I need to wait a couple seconds before.